All right, everyone get ready, because we're diving deep into the world of power dynamics.
Oh, I love this topic.
It's fascinating, right?
Oh,
Sometimes it can be sneaky, but it's all around us.
yeah, it really is.
You, the listeners, you've given us such a fascinating mix of sources to work with this time around.
You've really outdone yourself.
We've got everything from historical biographies to modern-day analyses of leadership.
We've even got a full audiobook of Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. Have you read that one?
I have. It's a classic, and it's so relevant to this topic. So today, we're going to use all of these amazing sources to try to understand how power dynamics work.
Yes, and we're going to see how those dynamics play out in different areas of life, from the workplace to our personal relationships.
Okay, so Greene kicks things off by talking about these old aristocratic courts.
Oh, yeah, like the kings and queens and all that. Right?
Exactly. It sounds a bit old-fashioned, I know.
Yeah.
But Greene makes this really interesting point.
Okay, I'm listening.
He says that the dynamics of those courts, all that etiquette and maneuvering, it's actually a mirror for the power struggles we still face today.
That's so true. Like, even though we don't have kings and queens anymore, at least not in most places.
Right. But the basic principles are still the same.
It's all about trying to gain influence and outmaneuver your rivals.
Yes. And in those courts, you had to appear elegant and civilized on the surface.
Oh, definitely appearances were everything back then.
But secretly, you're trying to outmaneuver your rivals.
Like a game of chess with really high stakes.
I love that analogy. Have you ever felt that pressure to be nice on the surface while secretly competing with someone?
Oh my gosh, all the time.
Right. It's such a common experience.
It's like this unspoken rule of so many social situations.
But Greene doesn't just describe the problem. He gives all these concrete examples from history.
Oh, I love that about his work.
And one of the most striking examples he uses is the story of Caesar Borgia.
Oh, Caesar Borgia.
Yeah.
No, he was a fascinating character. Ruthless, ambitious, and a master manipulator.
Yeah, he was an Italian duke during the Renaissance period.
A very turbulent time.
And one of the things that Greene highlights about Borgia is this contrast between his outward charm.
Yes. He was very charismatic and cultivated.
But underneath, he was a cold, calculating strategist.
Appearances can be deceiving, especially when it comes to power. I mean, never judge a book by its cover.
And this brings us to one of the most chilling stories in the audiobook, the tale of Borgia and his young rival, Prince Manfredo. Manfredo was everything Borgia wasn't. Handsome, charismatic, a natural leader.
And that was Borgia's downfall. He was so insecure and threatened by this young prince.
So what did he do?
He had him murdered. Imagine that, just for being more charming.
It's a brutal reminder that sometimes someone in a position of power might perceive you as a threat, even if you're not intentionally trying to challenge them.
It's a tough lesson to learn, but it's one that we all need to be aware of.
Greene actually calls this Law 1, never outshine the master.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's such a powerful concept. It might not be as dramatic as a murder plot these days.
Thankfully.
Right. But we all probably encounter people with fragile egos at some point in our lives.
Oh, absolutely. Especially in the workplace.
So how do you handle that? What do you do if you have a boss or a superior who feels threatened by your talent or success?
That's a tricky situation for sure.
You can't exactly hide your skills, can you?
No, definitely not. You don't want to appear incompetent.
So what does Greene suggest?
He gives some really practical advice. One of the best things you can do is be generous with credit.
Oh, that's interesting. So don't take all the credit for yourself.
Right. Make sure your superiors feel recognized and appreciated for their contributions, even if you're the one who did most of the work.
Because it's not really about who did the most work.
It's about managing perceptions and making your boss feel secure in their position.
That makes a lot of sense.
And another thing you can do is strategically downplay your strengths.
So don't be too boastful.
Exactly. You want to be seen as an asset, not a threat. And sometimes a little humility can go a long way.
Okay, so it's all about being mindful of the other person's ego.
Right. Reading the room, basically, and adjusting your behavior accordingly.
But speaking of threats, Greene also has this other law that really made me think, never put too much trust in friends, learn how to use enemies.
Ooh, that's a juicy one. It sounds a bit cynical, though, doesn't it?
It does. But, you know, he backs it up with some pretty compelling examples from history.
Like what?
Well, he talks about this story from the Byzantine Empire about Emperor Michael III and his best friend, Basilius.
Okay, wait, I don't know this one. Fill me in.
So Basilius actually started out as a simple stable groom.
A stable groom? How did he end up as the emperor's best friend?
It's an incredible story.
Yeah.
Michael basically elevated Basilius, showered him with gifts and favors.
Brought him into the inner circle.
Exactly. But as we often see with these power dynamics, things took a dark turn.
Don't tell me he betrayed him.
He did. And it's not just a minor betrayal here. We're talking full-on Shakespearean tragedy. It ends with Michael's head on a pike.
Wow. Talk about a friend turned enemy. But, okay, what's the lesson here? Are we supposed to never help our friends?
No, not necessarily, but it's a cautionary tale about misplaced trust, especially when power is involved.
Especially when there's a power imbalance.
Right. And what I found really fascinating is how Greene connects this to the psychology of receiving favors.
I'm curious. Tell me more.
So he says that too many favors can actually create a sense of burden and resentment.
Oh, that's interesting. It's like it creates an obligation that can be hard to repay.
Exactly. And that can lead to all sorts of problems.
So in a way, Michael's generosity might have contributed to his own downfall.
That's Greene's point. It makes you think twice about the potential downsides of seemingly positive actions.
It really does. You have to be careful about who you help and how you help them.
It's like that saying, no good deed goes unpunished.
So true. And, this isn't just ancient history.
Oh, I bet it happens all the time.
It does. Think about the workplace, for instance.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
If someone constantly feels indebted to you, it can create an unhealthy power dynamic.
Right. It's all about maintaining those boundaries.
So a bit of strategic detachment can be a good thing, even with your friends.
That's good advice. It sounds like we need to be careful about those power imbalances.
We do. And Greene has so much more to say about this. Are you ready for another story?
Oh, absolutely. Hit me with it.
Okay, so get this. Greene also talks about con men in the book.
Oh, this is going to be good.
And there's one in particular that I think you'll find fascinating. A guy known as the Yellow Kid. He pulled off one of the most ingenious scams of the 19th century.
The Yellow Kid, huh? I don't think I know that one.
Oh, you're in for a treat. He was a true master of deception. And his most famous victim was this wealthy but kind of naive millionaire named Joseph Bunko Giselle.
Okay, Bunko Giselle, I love it already. Tell me more.
So the Yellow Kid, he understood that to trick someone like Giselle, he needed a believable lure.
Okay, so what was the bait?
He came up with this whole story about a lucrative land deal in Michigan.
Oh, so he played on Giselle's greed by making him think he was getting in on a secret deal.
Exactly. But the land deal was just a smokescreen, you see.
There's always a catch, right? So what was the real con?
It involved a rigged boxing match. Can you believe that?
A boxing match. Wait, how did that tie into the land deal?
So the Yellow Kid brought in one of his fighters, this seemingly out-of-shape, middle-aged guy.
Oh, no. I can already see where this is going.
He claimed to be a boxing trainer, but of course the fighter was in on the con the whole time.
Okay, so how did he get Giselle involved in this boxing match?
After Giselle had already put up a significant amount of money for the land deal, the Yellow Kid staged a confrontation between his fighter and another boxer who was supposedly connected to the land deal.
Oh, I see. So he made it seem like a legitimate challenge.
Exactly. Playing on Giselle's fear of getting on the wrong side of these powerful financiers.
So Giselle had no idea it was all a setup.
Not a clue. He thought he was witnessing a real fight.
What happened during the fight?
Okay, so during the fight, the Yellow Kid's fighter was knocked out and appeared to be dead.
Oh my gosh.
He even had a little pouch of chicken blood tucked in his cheek to make it look convincing.
That is brilliant and awful at the same time.
Right. So Giselle, thinking he was implicated in a murder, he panicked and ran.
He left all his money behind.
Every penny. All to avoid getting caught up in a murder charge.
Wow, that Yellow Kid was a genius.
Right.
He knew exactly how to play on people's psychological weaknesses.
It was a classic bait and switch, made even more effective by his seemingly naive persona.
Right. Who would suspect an awkward, unassuming guy like him of being a criminal mastermind?
He really understood how to use perception to his advantage.
It's incredible. Okay, so we've gone from the dangers of outshining your master to the complexities of friendship and power dynamics to the world of con artists.
Power dynamics are everywhere. What else did you find in your research? Let's keep exploring.
All right, so moving from the world of con men to the world of, well, I guess you could say seduction and intrigue.
Ooh, this sounds interesting.
We have the captivating story of Mata Hari. Have you heard of her?
Oh, of course. Mata Hari, a name synonymous with mystery and a little bit of scandal.
Exactly. She was a Dutch woman who became famous as an exotic dancer in Paris in the early 1900s.
I remember reading about her. She was a fascinating figure, a real enigma.
And that's the key to her success. It wasn't really about her talent as a dancer. It was all about the persona she created.
You mean the air of mystery surrounding her?
Exactly. She cultivated this aura of exoticism, telling these elaborate stories about growing up in the Far East.
Learning sacred dances and living this super adventurous life.
Right, and people were completely captivated by her.
They wanted to believe in the fantasy she had created.
And because no one knew for sure who she really was, they were even more intrigued.
It's like she understood the power of the unknown.
Absolutely. She built her entire career on mystique. And this isn't just relevant to exotic dancers, right?
Right. It makes me think about branding and marketing today.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Companies are always trying to create that sense of mystique around their products and services.
Like, think about luxury brands, for instance.
Oh, they're masters at this.
They thrive on exclusivity and holding back information. They don't reveal everything. They leave you wanting more.
It's like the old saying, less is more.
Exactly. It's about creating a sense of intrigue and making people curious.
So what Mata Hari did a century ago is still incredibly relevant today.
It's all about storytelling, creating an image, and knowing what to reveal and what to conceal.
Wow, I'm already seeing power dynamics everywhere.
Me too.
Yeah,
It's amazing how these principles apply to so many different areas of life.
it is. And you know what? This is just the tip of the iceberg. We've got so many more fascinating stories and insights to explore from the sources you've given us.
Oh, I can't wait. Let's dive into those next.
All right, so we're back and ready to uncover even more about the fascinating world of power dynamics.
There's just so much to explore.
I know, right? Earlier we were talking about Greene's advice to learn how to use enemies. It sounds kind of harsh,
It does.
but there's actually a great story about Otto von Bismarck that you included in your research that really brings this law to life.
Ah, Bismarck, one of my favorite historical figures.
For those who don't know, he was the Prussian statesman who unified Germany in the 19th century.
Quite a feat.
He was a master strategist and a really interesting example of how to use power dynamics to achieve your goals.
So this story actually takes place early in Bismarck's career when he was just a deputy in parliament.
Okay, so he wasn't in charge yet.
Not yet. But he was already making a name for himself.
Got it.
And at the time, war with Austria was a really hot topic in Prussia.
So tensions were high.
Very high. And most people, including Bismarck himself, actually favored going to war with Austria.
So everyone's on board for war. What happened?
Well, Bismarck did something completely unexpected. He publicly spoke out against war in Parliament.
What? That's a bold move, especially if he personally supported it.
It was. And it shocked everyone, even his allies.
They must have thought he'd lost his mind.
Oh, they definitely questioned his motives, but Bismarck, he was playing the long game here.
I see what you're saying, so it was all part of a bigger strategy.
Exactly. By opposing the war, he publicly aligned himself with the king, who was also against it at the time.
That's clever. So he used the situation to gain favor with the most powerful person in the country.
It was brilliant, even if it meant going against his own personal beliefs in the short term.
So he put his ambition above his principles in a way.
In this case, yes, and it worked like a charm. The king was so impressed by Bismarck's loyalty.
That he what?
He saw him as a valuable ally, someone he could trust, and ultimately, this move helped propel Bismarck to a position of power.
It's amazing how he turned a potentially damaging situation into a stepping stone.
He knew how to play the game, that's for sure.
And this brings us to Greene's Law 3. Conceal your intentions.
Ah, yes. A classic power move.
Keep your cards close to your chest.
Exactly. If your opponents don't know what you're thinking, they can't anticipate your next move.
It's all about being unpredictable.
It's like being a magician. You never reveal your secrets.
Or a poker player with a really good poker face.
That's a great analogy. The key is to create a distraction, a smokescreen that prevents others from seeing your true motives.
I can definitely see how this is useful in politics.
Oh yeah, it happens all the time. Politicians are pros at concealing their intentions.
With vague promises, carefully chosen words.
It can be frustrating for sure, but it's definitely a key part of the game.
So we've talked about concealing our intentions. What about how we communicate in general? Does Greene offer any advice on that front?
Oh, he does, and it's a piece of advice I think we could all benefit from.
Okay, I'm listening.
Law 4, always say less than necessary.
That's a good one. I know I'm guilty of over-explaining sometimes. I feel like I need to justify everything.
I think we all do it to some extent. But Greene makes a really good point here.
What's that?
He says that when you talk too much, you dilute your power.
That's interesting.
You risk revealing information you shouldn't, saying something foolish, and ultimately you just seem less in control.
Okay, so it's about being strategic with your words, choosing them carefully.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Silence creates a sense of mystery.
Okay, how
It
so?
makes people curious. They lean in, wanting to hear more.
I guess it leaves space for them to fill in the blanks with their own interpretations.
Exactly. Instead of laying all your cards on the table, you let them project their own ideas onto you.
I never thought of it that way. It's kind of like a power vacuum.
It is. And that can be really advantageous, especially when you're dealing with people in positions of power.
So, like, if I'm in a meeting with my boss, I shouldn't try to dominate the conversation
Right. It's better to be concise and let them do most of the talking.
and just listen attentively.
Ask thoughtful questions and only speak when you have something truly valuable to add.
It sounds like it's all about quality over quantity when it comes to communication.
Exactly. Make your words count.
I'm starting to see these power dynamics in a whole new light. It's not about brute force or aggression. It's really about psychology and strategy.
You're getting it. And speaking of strategy, one of the most important elements of power is reputation.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like that saying, your reputation precedes you.
That's the one. Your reputation shapes how people perceive you, even before they've met you.
So in the game of power, reputation can either help or hurt you.
It's a double-edged sword. Greene actually has a whole law dedicated to this.
Law 5.
Mm.
So much depends on reputation guarded with your life.
That's it. And he really emphasizes the importance of being proactive.
Meaning,
Don't just wait for someone to attack your reputation. Anticipate potential threats and find ways to neutralize them before they gain traction.
it's like controlling the narrative around yourself.
That's a great way to put it. And there's a great story from Chinese history that illustrates this point perfectly.
Oh, I love these historical examples. Lay it on me.
It involves a brilliant strategist named Zhu Zhiliang, who was famous for his cunning and intelligence.
Okay, I'm intrigued what happened.
So during one campaign, Zhu Zhiliang found himself in a really tough spot.
How tough.
He was outnumbered and trapped in a small town with only a handful of soldiers.
Okay, so the odds are not in his favor.
Not at all. An enemy army of over 150,000 troops was approaching.
Oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
It seemed like all was lost.
So what did he do?
Well, instead of panicking or trying to fight a hopeless battle, he did something unexpected.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat here.
He ordered his troops to open the city gates, take down their flags, and hide.
He surrendered. Just like that.
Not exactly. It was a calculated risk.
I'm even more confused now.
Okay, so picture this. Zhu Zhiliang, he sits on the city wall, dressed casually and calmly playing his lute and drinking tea.
He's putting on a show.
Exactly. He was projecting an air of confidence and unconcern. It was all an act to try and intimidate the enemy general, Sima Yi.
Oh, that's brilliant. Psychological warfare.
Exactly. Sima Yi was known for his cautious nature, and when he saw Zhu Zhiliang so relaxed,
He must have freaked out.
he did. He couldn't believe that Zhu Zhiliang would be so calm if he wasn't prepared for an attack.
He thought it was a trap.
Exactly. He assumed there must be a hidden army waiting to ambush him.
So Zhu Zhiliang, using just his reputation and a bit of clever acting, saves himself and his men.
He did. He turned a seemingly hopeless situation into a victory.
Wow. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense, or in this case, a carefully crafted illusion of one.
It's a powerful example of how you can use reputation and perception to your advantage in a power struggle.
So building a solid reputation isn't just about vanity. It's actually a crucial survival tactic.
It can be. And a strong reputation is built on consistency, integrity, and the ability to deliver on your promises.
It's about trust, right?
Exactly. People need to be able to trust that you're who you say you are and that you'll do what you say you'll do.
This deep dive has been full of twists and turns. We've gone from courtly intrigue to the psychology of warfare to the art of reputation management.
And we're not done yet. There's still so much more to uncover.
Okay, let's keep going. What else do we got?
Well, Greene also talks about the power of cultivating an air of mystery. And he uses the example of King Louis XIV of France.
Louis XIV, the Sun King himself.
The one and only. He was a larger-than-life figure.
Oh, absolutely. He built the Palace of Versailles.
And Greene says that he really understood that power isn't just about force. It's also about image and mystique.
Okay, I'm curious. Tell me more.
So Louis XIV was very deliberate about how he presented himself.
In what way?
He cultivated an aura of aloofness and grandeur. He didn't give interviews or chat with the common people.
He was like a modern-day celebrity almost.
Exactly. Always keeping a certain distance between himself and the public.
And because people knew so little about him, they were even more fascinated by him,
They filled in the gaps with their own imaginations.
which ultimately enhanced his power and influence.
It's really fascinating when you think about it.
It's like what we were saying earlier. Sometimes what you don't say is more important than what you do say.
And that's especially true in the age of social media.
Oh yeah, it's so easy to overshare these days.
And when you reveal everything, you lose that sense of mystery.
This is giving me a lot to think about in terms of how I present myself online.
It's definitely something to be mindful of, but let's shift gears a bit. You included a story about a very different kind of power dynamic, the world of the con artist.
Oh yes, this one is particularly audacious. It involves a guy named Count Victor Lustig, who operated in the early 20th century.
Count Victor Lustig, I've heard that name before.
He was a smooth-talking gentleman with a talent for deception.
And who was his target?
None other than Al Capone, the infamous Chicago gangster.
Al Capone. Wow, that's a bold target. What was Lustig's scheme?
He went to Capone with this proposition. He said, invest $50,000 with me and I'll double it in 60 days.
A classic con artist pitch.
But Capone wasn't easily fooled.
I mean, he was a gangster.
He knew Lustig was a con man.
So why did he agree to the deal?
I think Capone was curious.
Curious. About what?
He wanted to see how Lustig would try to pull it off.
Like he was watching a performance.
And maybe he was a little bit amused by Lustig's audacity, daring to con Al Capone.
That takes guts.
So 60 days pass, and Lustig goes back to Capone acting all dejected and apologetic.
Oh, no. Did he lose the money?
He told Capone that the deal had fallen through and that he'd lost all of the money.
I bet Capone was furious.
You'd think so, right? But Lustig was prepared.
What did he do?
He pulled out $50,000 and returned every penny to Capone.
Wait, he returned the money. Why would he do that?
That's the brilliant part. By appearing honest and returning the money,
He gained Capone's trust.
he completely disarmed Capone.
So instead of getting whacked, Capone actually gave Lustig $5,000 as a consolation prize.
It's incredible.
Lustig understood that sometimes the best way to con someone is to appear honest and trustworthy.
He played on Capone's ego and his sense of fairness.
And he walked away with a profit.
It's a great example of how even those in positions of power, like Al Capone, can be manipulated if you know how to play them.
It's a reminder that we all have our weaknesses.
But this deep dive isn't all about cons and trickery.
Right. There are other sides to power dynamics.
You also included some research on the power of asking for help.
Oh, yes. And Greene's advice on this is so interesting.
I'm all ears.
He says that most people are actually terrible at asking for help
Oh, really? Why is that?
because they approach it from a position of weakness.
Like begging for favors.
Exactly. They plead, they rely too much on emotion, and it often backfires.
So what's the right way to ask for help?
Greene suggests flipping the script. Instead of begging, we should frame our request as an opportunity for mutual benefit.
So it's not about charity. It's about creating a win-win situation.
That's it. And to do that effectively, you need to understand the other person's motivations.
Okay, so put yourself in their shoes.
Exactly. What are their needs and goals? How can you help them achieve those goals? It's about finding that sweet spot where your interests align.
Do you have any examples of this?
He uses this fascinating story from history to illustrate this point.
Oh, I love a good historical example. Hit me.
It involves Genghis Khan, the Mongol warlord.
Oh, wow. Genghis Khan. He wasn't exactly known for his generosity.
You're right, he was known for his brutality. But this story really highlights the power of persuasion.
Okay, I'm hooked. What happened?
So, when Genghis Khan invaded China, he was determined to destroy everything in his path.
That's horrifying.
He saw the Chinese as weak and wanted to wipe out their entire civilization.
Was anyone able to stop him?
There was one man, Yiluchukai, a scholar and advisor.
What did he do?
He knew that appealing to Genghis Khan's sense of humanity wouldn't work.
So what did he do?
He appealed to a different motivation, Khan's greed.
Ah, so he played on Khan's self-interest.
He argued that if Khan spared China, he could tax the people and collect enormous wealth.
He basically turned it into a business proposal.
Exactly, and it worked. Genghis Khan, who was always interested in increasing his wealth and power, agreed to spare China.
Yiluchukai saved countless lives by using persuasion and strategy. Amazing.
It's a perfect example of how to use leverage to achieve your goal.
It's also a good reminder that sometimes you have to think outside the box to find solutions.
That's the beauty of power dynamics. There's always a way to shift the balance of power.
We've covered so much ground in this deep dive. From ancient courts to con men to the art of persuasion.
I know, power dynamics are everywhere, right?
It's like they're hidden in plain sight.
But once you start to see them, You can't unsee them.
I completely agree. What else we got? Let's keep digging. It really is amazing how these dynamics play out in so many different areas of life.
It is, and I think this deep dive has really highlighted that.
From ancient courts to the criminal underworld,
We've seen it all,
we've seen how these strategies have been used throughout history.
and how they're still relevant today.
So as we wrap up this exploration of power dynamics, what are some of the key takeaways you think our listeners should walk away with?
That's a great question. I think the biggest takeaway is simply this. Power dynamics are everywhere.
They're not just something that happens in boardrooms or palaces, right?
Exactly. They're at play in our personal relationships,
Our work lives.
even our casual interactions.
It's like you've given me a new lens to view the world through.
I love that analogy. And it's true. Once you become aware of these dynamics,
You can't unsee them.
it's like a secret code that's been unlocked.
And just like learning a new language, understanding the language of power can help us navigate these situations more effectively.
Right. And it's not about becoming a master manipulator.
We don't want our listeners taking inspiration from Cis or Borgia or anything.
Definitely not. But it is about empowerment, about understanding the forces at play so we can make more informed choices.
So it's kind of like learning self-defense.
Oh, I like that.
You don't necessarily want to go around picking fights.
Right. But knowing how to protect yourself gives you a sense of confidence.
And security.
Exactly. Awareness is the first step,
Paying attention to those subtle cues in communication.
both verbal and nonverbal.
And asking yourself those key questions.
Like, what are this person's motivations? What are they trying to achieve?
It's about becoming a student of human behavior.
Looking for those patterns.
And then using that knowledge to navigate these situations in a way that's both effective and ethical.
That's a really important point. Power can be used for good or for evil.
Right. It all depends on the intentions of the person wielding it.
Exactly. And speaking of intentions, this makes me wonder about something.
Oh, what's that?
We've been talking about individuals using these strategies, but what about larger systems?
Oh, that's interesting. So like institutions and organizations.
Exactly. Do these same dynamics play out at that level?
That's a great question, and I think the answer is a resounding yes.
I agree. Think about corporate cultures,
Political systems.
even social movements.
Power dynamics are woven into the fabric of these structures
And sometimes those dynamics can be even more complex and challenging to navigate,
because there are so many layers of power at play.
and often a lot more at stake.
But that awareness, that understanding of how power operates in these larger systems,
It can be incredibly empowering
it can help us to question those
to
systems
challenge them.
and ultimately to work towards creating systems that are more just and equitable.
That's a great point. It's not just about understanding power for personal gain.
It's also about using that understanding to make a positive impact on the world around us.
To create positive change.
This deep dive has been such an incredible journey.
It really has. We've covered so much ground.
I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. It's been a fascinating exploration of the complexities of power.
And the many ways it shapes our lives.
So to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has been as eye-opening for you as it has been for us.
We encourage you to continue exploring these dynamics in your own lives,
To pay attention to those subtle cues.
to ask those tough questions.
And to use your newfound knowledge to navigate the world of power with confidence and integrity.
Power is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for evil.
The choice is ours.
Thank you for joining us on this fascinating journey.